Item 10B is receive a report and provide direction to staff on the Civic Center painting project.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, good evening. Ray Razavi, Acting City Engineer, will make the presentation of this project. The project manager is Will Anderson, but he wasn't able to be here tonight, and Ray worked very closely in the development of this project with Will.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The Civic Center painting project comprised of painting the exterior of the three buildings: the City Hall, the Fire Station 51, which is the central fire station, as well as the main library. These three buildings have last been painted about 15 years ago, and they're definitely overdue for repainting, cleaning, and bringing it up to the current standard. This is the current condition of the three buildings. The worst of the problems are located in the south and the east walls. The paints are chipping away. They got moisture behind them, and they're peeling off and causing considerable damage to the exterior and actually infiltrating the outside skin of the buildings. Back in 2008, a color palette was developed by use of a color consultant. This went through extensive reviews and consideration of different colors and how they apply to certain parts of the building. And this color palette that you see before you is the one that was selected and proposed, accepted by the council. You see on the left, we're starting out with gray birch. That's pretty much most of the building would be colored in that gray birch hue. Then you have below it, you have pale ivory, as well as oxblood shade. It's got a dark reddish color. And on the right side, you see three shades of green: khaki green, black forest green, and Allentown green. These are the six colors that compose the whole three buildings, different parts. Looking at the color scheme, starting out with the front of the City Hall, as you can see on the left, we have the black forest green that applies to the top of the columns at the very top. That's the fascia of the building. Right above that is going to be oxblood shade, the dark reddish, and that will be right at the very top of the fascia. And that will continue on, go across to the right and to the left side of the building at the very top. Then you can see pale ivory. That's going to be around the window trim, both on the right and on the left side, all around the building. The base of the building is going to be gray birch. The majority of the surfaces will be getting the gray birch treatment. Then we have khaki green, which is the columns right in front of the City Hall, as well as the sides of the steps, the retaining walls. Those also will be khaki green. Now finally we have an Allentown green that's going to be the cap strip above the khaki green on the retaining walls. At the very top. Moving on to the rear of the City Hall, that's the west side, we have pretty much the same color scheme. We got the oxblood shade at the very, very top. Then we have black forest green right below it. Then we have the khaki green coming down on the columns. Then we have the pale ivory, which would be the interior on the very top and the ceiling. And then we have the gray birch, which would be pretty much everything else on the side of the building. This is the color scheme for the library. This is looking at the library from the west side of the library towards the north entrance. What you can see again is the oxblood shade, the dark reddish color on the very top. Followed by the gray birch on most of the vertical surfaces. And then the khaki green on those outlining columns. This is the color scheme for the sculpture relief. We have 4 colors: khaki green, Allentown green, gray birch, and pale ivory. The sculpture is towards El Camino on the east side of the building. And one option we have is to color the sculpture with these 4 different colors as opposed to have just gray birch going across. This is the color scheme for the fire station. Again, we have the oxblood shade at the very top. Below it would be the black forest green, the pale ivory around, and the Allentown and khaki green. One thing that we need to consider is the bricks. We have quite a few bricks all around the 3 buildings, as well as the landscape area and the retaining walls. We have 3 options for these bricks. The color consultant has proposed that we paint all brick surfaces as was proposed in the color scheme. We also can clean and seal all brick surfaces and leave them as is, as you can see in the middle picture, or we can apply stucco and then paint all brick surfaces, which would be the most costly of the 3 options. Then we have 3 types of bricks, 3 categories. Category 1 are the bricks around the building, kind of as part of the building. Category 2 are the bricks in the front by El Camino that are retaining walls. And category 3 are all the short walls and miscellaneous bricks around the landscape area. So the list of the issues is: number 1, the color palette that was approved as proposed in 2008, as well as the scheme of how to apply the 6 colors to the different buildings. The sculpture relief, whether we want to have that painted or just a background paint, as it is now. Brick treatments, in which categories, what kind of treatment you want, and also the landscaping. We will have to trim the landscaping back, so we're going to be losing some of the mass of the landscaping around the 3 buildings in order to access and be able to paint the buildings. And some of that will result on cutting back some of the trees, shrubs, etc. And some smaller shrubs will be removed because they're attached to the building. So our recommendation is we finalize the plans and specs with the color palette and scheme as proposed and paint the bricks. That will be the base bit. We could include a bit alternate if it is the wish of the council for additional color scheme on sculpture relief. We could include bit alternates on stucco if the council wishes to have different kind of a treatment on the bricks. We plan to advertise an award in spring of this year and complete by the end of the summer. That concludes my presentation. Open to any questions.
Questions of staff? Ken?
Basically, we're going to have a red ribbon along the tops of all the buildings.
That's correct.
And it's the fascia. It's the metal fascia flashing
Flashing.
that
That's
runs
correct.
along the top. The difference between at the columns, at the entrances, there is no change in material, or there's no change in, there's no joint or anything between the black forest and the khaki for the verticals.
That's correct.
So it's just going to be a line. It's just going to be a change of color in the line.
That's how it was proposed, yes.
Yeah. It's another thing I don't like. I'm okay with changing colors in different planes, or whether it's joints, or whether it's, patterns or whatever. But just like these, where you paint and you stencil or something, basically that's what you're doing. You're just stopping the paint and changing the color. And I don't think it's necessary. It's almost like, what's wrong with just doing black forest all the way around like it is now, and then have an accent of the red at the top? My other comment is that so none of the window trims will be in green at all.
That is correct.
Okay, that's a good thing. The walls on the left-hand side are stuccoed now.
That is correct.
Yeah, but there's no cap, so they're stuccoed on the top. So a question would be, how are you going to treat? Are you going to treat a cap there? Or are you going to add a cap? Because where I'm getting at is that, at least in the entrance of City Hall, personally, I would like to see the brick stuccoed, so that we get a frame of the front stairs. To what extent we stucco brick, I don't know. But I like that scheme, but I'm not really sure how you're going to treat the existing stuccoed terraces.
The existing stucco is basically going to be khaki green with a cap of Allentown green. Again, it's going to have that line. There's no separation in the type of material.
Okay.
It's kind of a lighter and a medium green difference.
Probably not even necessary then. My last comment is that on the relief sculpture, I'd just soon have it all one color. I think it's classic in having it in that right color, all in the same, and just let the sculpture, do all the detail. Those are my comments.
Okay. Anyone else? Michael?
Through the chair, thank you. You made a reference to the fact that the peeling paint, water's getting behind there, and there could be some damage. I noticed we had a $15,000 construction contingency included in what's included here. That $15,000 what could we expect that we could cover with that? Are we expecting to find any water damage in there, dry rotting, and how far would this get us?
Yeah, as you know, council member, 15,000 is like very small amount, but for 3 buildings, it would be about 5,000 per building, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
We don't expect to be extensive damage. We have seen some minor damage. We have toured the buildings with painting contractors, and we have looked at the existing, and we don't see some very extensive damage. There is some damage around the fire station, those smaller, low buildings that are on the south side next to the parking lot that we may have to fix. There's also some damage in terms of some storm pipes that were attached to the building, and they have dislodged themselves from the building, so we have to fix those. We may use some city staff for that, or we may use the contractor to do that. But you are correct, 15,000, we are expecting that the damage would be minimal on all 3 buildings.
Okay, all right. And I know that deferred maintenance is always a bad thing, and we've been postponing this for a long time. I'm wondering, are there other projects that we have identified in these 3 buildings that may take precedence even over doing this? And I know the buildings look really bad. We need to do it. It's only going to get worse. But during one of the meetings we had at City Hall, we had a window fall in. So I'm wondering, are there other projects that we should possibly be looking at instead of this one?
Not on these 3 buildings. We don't have any other projects right now pending that would
Okay.
come ahead of this.
Okay.
A quick comment to that. There is one other project that has had, it is not directly a maintenance or a repair project, but there are a couple of projects at the fire stations having to do with seismic evaluation and improvements, both at Station 51 as well as 52, which is not on the table for painting. And there is an outstanding need to address some security issues in the interior of City Hall, but we have not actually completed a comprehensive evaluation of the maintenance condition of our buildings either. As the council is probably aware, we have a very limited funding for maintenance and repair and capital upgrade of general fund facilities, which all of these are. And so I would say it is, I would want you to not overlook the fact that we may be not looking at things that we should be looking at. So the fact that our capital budget does not include a lot of projects does not necessarily represent the potential need if we were to complete a comprehensive evaluation of maintenance, repair, and upgrade needs.
Right. And that was really what I was trying to get at, is we do have limited funds, and while painting would be really nice, I was just, want to make sure that we're not overlooking something that might be more fundamental. You also mentioned seismic considerations at one of the fire stations. The bricks that we're talking about here, are those an integral part of the structure, or are those just a facade on these three buildings?
The bricks, most of the bricks are integral part of the structure. There are some that are only for facade, but it differs from building to building.
And so would we have concerns? I know brick's not probably a favorite building material in California because it's not necessarily the best seismic material.
Well, depends on how the brick is constructed. But in this case, most of these bricks don't go up more than a few feet from the ground up.
Okay.
And they are filled with concrete. So, and these are one-story structures. So if we had a second story, for example, on City Hall, then we would have to look at that viability of that brick. But with a one-story structure, there's less concern.
Okay. So we can't think about expanding.
We can't think about expanding, but at that time, we would have to look at and do the calculations and make sure we have enough shear walls and enough lateral support to carry the extra load on the second floor.
All right. Thank you.
Rico?
On the library sculpture, I would say one color. As far as, so I would agree with the one color on that. On the brick in the front, and I'm just trying to envision, but isn't there toward the bottom portion holes for the drainage of the water, or is my memory correct? So my concern also is that obviously over time wears, shows. So I just want us to be mindful of that. The vegetation that you're going to be cutting back, good. I think it's due. If you go back and look some of those pictures at the San Bruno PD when they used to take their photos out in front of the old police station or in front of City Hall, it looks just like it is. As far as I think some of the same vegetation. So I think that would be nice to be spruced up. Was it also on the El Camino side to the left of the entrance of City Hall? Was it also to cut back that and put a City of San Bruno sign instead of what's currently on top of City Hall?
That was the original thought, Council Member, that we would cut back the left side and provide a City of San Bruno City Hall at this location. We are looking at what will be the best location for this. Right now, we have an overgrown shrub to the left of the City Hall entrance, plus an air conditioning unit that's right behind it. So we can take out the shrub, for example, and try to cover the air conditioning, make a nice fencing covering around it, and then apply the sign to that area. But another proposal that was done, we brought the color consultant back, and his proposal was to put the City Hall sign down on the retaining wall as you enter to the right side where you see the number 567. We could have that sign affixed to the retaining wall after we do the treatment, whether it's paint or stucco. Another option would be to redo the sign at the very top of the entrance. Right now, the sign is not very obvious. We could replace that sign with a more prominent sign.
And then, okay, and then the last thing is, as you're going up those stairs, and Councilmember Ibarra talked about to the right and the left, because right now it's just, I don't want to not do your word not inviting, but I mean, it's just, you just look at it, and obviously it's just, and I'm not thinking some better words to utilize, not an architect, but I just think it could be more alike, there could be some continuity to it, et cetera.
Were you thinking about a different type of paint, or?
No, I'm just saying,
Different
as you're
type of
walking up City Hall, as you know, to the, looking at my way from the left to the right, you have two different sites.
That's correct.
So more continuity and consistency as you're coming up, it just has a better aesthetic appeal. Shall we say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Irene?
I agree. I don't think the relief on the library should be anything but one color. I also agree that the front part of the City Hall where the bricks are on the right should be matched as closely as possible to the risers on the left, so that there is some kind of uniformity. The colors are fine with me, except the red. I don't understand why we need to cap anything with the red. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't add anything. It makes it look Christmassy, red and green. It's like, we don't need that. So I would just take the red off and leave all that the same color. I love Christmas, but I don't need it in July or something. As far as the rest of the bricks around, I don't know if we need to treat them in any way, except to clean and seal them would be my suggestion.
As
But
opposed
I
to
don't-
painting?
Right. Yeah, I kind of like the look. I don't know if we need to paint them. Would there be, I guess you have to get a consensus. Is there any structural reason that we need to paint them? And doesn't that just kind of add more maintenance later on?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd leave, except for the front here, I'd leave the rest of the bricks alone.
And the
Or-
front?
And clean and plain them. Pardon me?
I'm sorry, the front, did you say stucco and paint, or just
Yes,
paint?
I would
Stucco
stucco
to
and
match
paint
the
the
entrance
right-hand
to the
side
left.
to match the left-hand side as much as possible. And I'd eliminate the red and clean and seal the rest of the bricks.
And then we do have some other areas under the windows that are bricks,
Yes,
and we could clean that and leave it as is?
that's
Is
my
that what
opinion,
you're
yes, I
proposing?
would do that. I like those.
Just
bricks.
the retaining wall at the entrance?
Yes. That's me. I don't know if you get three.
I like the palette. I have had a lot of experience with this particular color consultant in San Francisco, just some pretty special things. So I think he knows what he's doing. I like the idea of the red across the top because it stops. It stops your visual, go to sky. I believe where it says 567, that has to be skimmed and painted. Not the whole length of El Camino, but just the big fascia there, if you will. I also think the rest of the bricks deserve to be cleaned and painted because I think they're just going to add another color, if you will, to what is a well thought out palette. And I wouldn't have any objection to the sculpture being painted as long as it was very, very subtle, another color. If you went for gray birch to khaki green or something, I think it deserves a little recognition, and I think it would show nice. So the only stucco I'd like to see is over the 567 and going up the steps. The rest of it, I think, clean the bricks, paint the bricks, and you have my comments.
So the poor guy has 5 different comments.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, our intent tonight was to get general direction, actually, and thank you very much for the comments and the specific guidance. Our intent was to get enough direction to put together a bid package, which I believe that we have, And the City Council will have an opportunity to make more specific decisions at the time that we return to you with the award of contract. And if there are details that we need additional consultation with you about, we will ask for we'll ask the mayor for the formation of a subcommittee to do any more detailed analysis. But that your comments tonight have been very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. I think, going forward, with what computers can generate nowadays, I think it would be fairly easy for the colorist or city staff to actually show us, a picture instead of something up there and kind of a hazy description of what's in the packet. I'd like to see that a little more so we can see what happens when, visually with the computer you take out the foliage and we can actually see what we're going to get. So I think that should be able to be demonstrated to us easily.
If I could add, that entrance is the most important part. And I think with the signage and what we're suggesting as far as trying to want to complement each side of the staircase, we should probably get some, better, more detail on how that's going to be done. And I mean, I just don't think a painted stripe at the top of a wall is going to make it. I think we can do great things. The mayor can tell you that we can do good things with, with stucco relief and stucco trim or whatever that could, in the same way, finish off the top of a wall. And, so that's, to me, is very important. Yeah. And then also, how much landscaping do we want to keep? I mean, it's just overgrown. There's too much, and it's a very detailed building, and it's like we got a color palette that's fighting with all these different trees and shrubs and materials. So I think simpler is probably the direction to go.
It's part of our plan to have a contract before the painting will happen, and basically to have all of the landscape cut back and done before the contractor will start on the painting itself. And having your feedback and input now before that will take place is very critical.
If I could just one last thing. You're an engineer and you're a public works director. Do we have anyone in this staff that is really a painting contractor? Are we depending? I mean, how are we to trust that that the prices and what's going to be happening is actually the right price or a fair price and is the right thing to do. We need that impartial professional, and I think previously we had the consultant, and that's what we went on. But times have changed. It's been a few years now, and do we have someone? Are we looking to someone or are we just going on those same numbers?
However, I indicate that he already requested one painting contractor to provide us with his feedback and took around the building, and he gave us already a estimate and helped us to make this recommendation, and a recommendation that the budget and the estimate is in the right range at least.
Okay. Staff need anything else? Good.
I think the department and staff has enough direction from you at this time to proceed for the next step.
Great. Item 10C, Rico, you had something?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, because it's been since 2008.
Yeah.
And I think we got a lot of good information, some things I hadn't thought of back then. So thank you.